Hey everyone, welcome back to the Yasin School's Test Driver Challenge tutorial series. In this video, we'll look at a few resources, how to add material to the body template, and create rear wings. To get started, let's head to the Yasin School's talk website. On the website, we will first start off with step 2, which is research and investigate. To build a test driver challenge car, we need to adhere to some technical rules and regulations which allow your car to be legal and safe on the racetrack. To find these technical rules and regulations, scroll down on the Research and Investigate page. You'll find a F1 Schools Regulations Download Now box. Click on the title. This will take you to a page where you can find all the rules and regulations. Find your category, which is the Test Driver Challenge category. Find the technical regulations and click on the download box. Once you download the file, it should look something like this. Now in this file, you can find all the technical rules and regulations that you need to follow. My recommendation would be for you to read this entire document before you actually get to designing the car. This will be a very useful document before, during, and after designing your car. So let's head to the first page to see what the car is made up of. I'm going to just zoom in a little bit over here. The entire test driver challenge car is broken down into multiple parts and multiple models. First of which is the main body. So the green body that you see over here is what's defined as the car body. Then you have the front wing and nose cone. On the wheel structure, you have the standard axle guides, you have the standard F1 Schools wheels, and you have the axles themselves. And underneath the car, you have the standard tether line guides, which help you keep your car grounded on the track when it's going from point A to point B. In terms of manufacturing, the main car body is made on a CNC machine, whereas the front wing and nose cone are 3D printed. The wheel structures will be provided to you by Yasin Schools. Let's head to Fusion 360 to start designing our car. In Fusion 360, we will first start designing the side pods. Side pods are just additional material added to the side of the car on either sides. So now to create our side pods, let's go ahead and create a sketch. Each 3D model always starts off with a sketch. So we need to start from a top view. So I'm going to select the top on the cube on the top right. I'm going to zoom in a little bit over here so it's a little clearer for us to see. I'm going to click on the top surface, right click, and click on Create Sketch, or I could simply select the top surface and click on the first icon on the top left called Create Sketch. Now let's start sketching our side pod. First, we need to start from behind the existing side pod is by creating a line. So find your sweet spot where your mouse will automatically snap to the edge. Create a line till here. Click on the green check. Now we need to give our side pod a little bit of a curve. So let's go ahead and create a spline. So click on the end point. Click on the point over here. And get all the way down to the end of the side pod. Okay. Now in order to get your mouse back, just hit escape. Looks like I can extend the side pod a little bit more. I think that looks about right. And I can extend that a little bit more outside to give it a very sleek look. Now what we're going to do is just go ahead and close the loop on this particular sketch because I cannot do much with it right now since it is just two lines joined together. So in order to close the loop on the sketch, simply create a line, select the endpoint, There you go. Hit escape. And now if you hover your mouse over the sketch and select it, it will select the entire side pod. Now obviously, a side pod cannot be on only one side of the car. It needs to be on both sides. So let's go ahead and create a center line. And I'll show you in a minute why I'm doing that. So let's start way behind the car and end up way ahead of the car. Click on done, click on the little green check, and make sure that we hit escape, which will allow us to get back to our black color mouse or the selection tool. Click on the line you just created. And now if you see, this line is not really being used for creating any sketch. So we're going to convert this line from a solid line to something called a construction line. The reason we are doing this is so that, as you can see, the line is now changed into a dashed or a dotted line, which tells the software that this line is not used for any live sketch. Now, I'll show you why I made this line in a second. Since we made our side pod sketch on the left side of the car, we need to make sure that our side pod is exactly identical on the other side as well. We have a feature in Fusion 360 called the mirror feature, which allows you to select a sketch and mirror it to the other side. Let's look at how that turns out. So go ahead and click on Create. Click on the Mirror tool. Now we need to select the objects that we need to mirror. In this case, the objects are the sketch itself. Click on the sketch. Now if you see, if I hover my mouse on just one side of the sketch, it highlights only one single line. In order to highlight the entire sketch at once, simply double click on the line. Once you've double clicked on the line, it'll say 5 objects to mirror. And now we need to select our mirror line. This is where our construction line comes in useful. So click on the construction line. And as you can see, Fusion 360 gives you a little preview of what your mirror looks like. Go ahead and click OK. And now you have a mirrored side pod sketch. Go ahead and click on Finish Sketch. Click on the Home view. And now our side pod sketch is created. Now we need to create these side pods as a 3D model. For that, we'll go ahead and click on Press Pull, or we can also click on Extrude. Click on the side pods and pull the tab down. Now you can do this manually, or you could just move the cube and look underneath the car. And since you need the side pod to come all the way down to the surface, just simply click on the surface. And the side pods will automatically be pulled down. Now, just look at the settings on the right over here. We have 2 profiles selected, which are the 2 side pods. We started the profile pane. With direction, we just go in one direction. And we extend till the distance of the bottom of the car. The operation that we're going to select over here is join, because we want this to be a part of the car body. Now remember, this is very important to note that you cannot remove any material from the car template. You can only add to it. So click on OK. There you go. Our side pod is now created. Now let's make sure that our side pod actually follows our manufacturing constrictions. So click on the top profile, spin the model around. In this template, we have included something called the model block. If you enable the model block, this actually shows you the physical model block that we are going to make your car out of. Now, if you go back to the top view, you can see that the side pod creeps out of the main model block. What this would mean is that when the machine is creating your car, it would not be able to create this part of the car which creeps out of the main model block. So we need to always make sure that our profiles or our body is always within the constraints of the model block. So let's go ahead and hide the model block for now. And if you go back to the timeline feature on the bottom of the Fusion 360, you can actually see all of the changes that you're making. In order to change the side pods and pull them in so that they fit within the model block, we need to change the sketch. So find the sketch that is made, which makes the model block, double click on the sketch, and now you can go back and edit your sketch. Let's zoom in over here. And we need to know how much to pull the side pod in. So let's go ahead and enable the model block for now. Select your sketch and just pull it in. You can pull the sketch in a little bit more. Use the handles to adjust. There we go. Now, as you can see, we have pulled our sketch far enough so that it fits in the model block, right? Now let's go ahead and hide our model block over there. And if you notice, since we had mirrored our sketch from one side to the other, any changes we make to one side automatically get reflected on the other side. Click Finish Sketch. And now, as you can see, the 3D model is now automatically updated. To test if your car now fits within the model block, go ahead and enable it again. And now you can see that the actual car body is fitting within the model block and can be manufactured easily. By the way, this is a check that we'll be performing at every step while modeling the test driver challenge car. Once you reach this step, it's important for us to go ahead and save our file so that we don't lose any of our progress. So simply go ahead and click Save File. Now at every point you can add descriptions of what changes you have made up till that version. So I'm just going to add over here, created side pods. Click OK. Now this helps us keep a track of all the changes that we are making to the car. The next feature that we're going to build out is our canister housing extension. If I zoom in a little bit over here, this is the canister housing, which if you turn towards the back, you can see this is the canister cavity where the CO2 canister actually sits. And the model around it is called the canister housing. Now, if you go back to the home view, you can see the model is not exactly aerodynamic. The flat surface over here can increase your drag, slowing down your car. Our objective over here is to sort of streamline and connect this flat part all the way down to the body over here. So again, let's start with the sketch on this surface. Spin a car around. Create a new sketch. Now, in order to create that smooth and aerodynamic feature, I'm just going to go ahead and create a little circle at the point where these two points match. And I can either eyeball my circle or I can actually put in an exact dimension. So let's go ahead and put 5 mm and hit enter. Now this creates a circle of 5 mm. As you can see, this is the dimension that it is constricted to at the moment. If you want, you can always double click the dimension and change it. So for example, if I change it to 4 and hit enter, it's going to reduce my size. Let's go back and change that to 5. That looks good. And now I want to connect this circle to this edge, right? So let's go ahead and create a line first, which goes from the middle all the way to out there. And now I'm going to create a spline that starts from this point. Click at a point in the middle and click on the surface at the edge of the circle that we have previously created and hit enter. Now what this does is creates a really smooth line on the outside, which you can then curve to your liking. I'm going to hit on escape and just change this to look a little bit more streamlined. Maybe pull this back over here. All right, perfect. Now, as we did with the side pod, we need this feature to reflect exactly the same on the other side of the car. So you're going to go back and create another reference line. Click OK. And this is the line which we are also going to convert to construction. Go ahead and click Create, click on Mirror, select your object. So my first object is this and this. Select your mirror line and select your reference line that you just created. And that looks about right. Go ahead and click OK. And now this is our main feature. But as you can see, it has an odd ending over there, right? So what we'll go ahead and do is adjust the point over there. Go to modify and select our trim tool so that we can just trim off this excess feature that we have. So click on trim and trim. Okay, hit escape. And now we have our endpoint. Click on finish sketch. Now, what we're going to do is actually use something called a loft tool that will create or extrude our 3D model from this plane to this sketch. So let's go ahead and create a sketch on this plane. Head to the front view. And we're going to use a tool called Project. We're going to click on the edges over here. There we go. Click OK. So that now the platform creates a nice little sketch for us along the outsides of this panel. Now we can go ahead and create a loft mechanism. So go ahead and click on Create, head to Loft. And now here we can select our profiles, which is starting from this plane, ending up on this plane. Perfect. So now the platform gives you a little preview of what that extrusion looks like. Now let's go ahead and see if we can click on direction. There we go. Or let's go ahead and keep that to connected and change this to direction. That looks a lot better. Now at this point, I would really recommend you to go ahead and play around with these settings, and who knows, you might create a very unique looking car. Do not be afraid of going ahead and playing around with the settings, looking at what more you could do apart from this tutorial, and make sure that your car looks unique and your car eventually ends up being the fastest on the track. So click on direction. You could also click on direction on the other side, but that gives us an error. So we're going to go back to connected. That looks about right. And let's play around with anything else we can. No. We just keep it that way. And make sure our operation is always joined, because we are always adding to the model block and not removing anything. And click OK. There we go. That looks good, doesn't it? Now the next part of the car that we're going to go ahead and create is going to be the rear wings. Before we actually start creating the rear wings, let's revisit our technical regulations to make sure we understand what a rear wing is, where its location is, what are span segments, what is a chord, and what is the thickness. So let's open up the rules and regulations, the technical rules and regulations. Scroll through our index and make sure we click on the wing and wing support structures. I'm going to zoom in a little bit over here and we'll go through a couple of regulations before we actually start creating the wings. Now, the first point that we're going to look at is going to be the rear wing location, since we are creating the rear wing. A rear wing location should be behind the forwardmost part of the rear wheel. So, in this illustration, as you can see, this part, which is the forwardmost part of the rear wheel, is our reference line, and a rear wing should always exist behind this particular reference line. When it comes to height, the rear wing must always exist over the topmost part of your rear wheel. This is to make sure that both of these don't touch and slow your car down during racing. Next, let's look at the dimensions of the wing that we're going to create. So the first one we're going to look at is the span segments. How far must the rear wing reach out of the car? The minimum span segment is 20 mm. In terms of chord, this is the breadth of how wide your rear wing is. So we have a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 25. And finally, we need to look at the rear wing thickness, which has a minimum of 4 mm and a maximum of 8 mm. So keeping these dimensions in mind and keeping our technical rules and regulations handy, we're going to go back to Fusion 360 to start creating a rear wing. Select this plane, right-click, and create sketch. With everything that we have learned from the technical rules and regulations, we are going to create our rear wing around in this area. So first, let's go ahead and create our leading edge and trailing edge. For that, I'm going to select a circle tool and create my leading edge right about here. Now, we need to create our leading edge as compliant with the thickness of our wing. We have minimum 4 mm. So I'm going to type in 4, hit enter. I'm going to add another circle at the back of the car and type that as 4 as well. We also need to make sure that both of our circles are spaced apart as per the regulations. What this means is we need to actually configure the chord of our wing. If we head back to the rules and regulations, you can see that the rear wing chord is measured from the edge at the back of the wing to the edge at the front of the wing. Heading back to Fusion 360, let's measure that. Let's first create 2 points at the rear of the trailing edge and at the front of the leading edge. Hit escape. Now these 2 points will allow us to measure the distance between both of the leading and the front edge. So go ahead and click on Measure tool, which you can find under the Inspect tab. Click on the first point in the front and the second point, the back. This will give you a measurement of 19.997 mm. So let's go ahead and check if that's within our rules and regulations. So 19.997, which is approximately 20 mm, falls between 15 to 25 mm allowance. Since that follows our rules and regulations, let's go ahead and create the main outline of the wing. For that, we will create the line between the trailing edge all the way up to the leading edge. Same way we'll create the bottom line. There we go. And now you have a basic outline of the wing that you need to create. Let's go ahead and delete these extra arcs that are in between that we don't need anymore. So click on the trim tool, find these arcs and just click on them to get rid of them. If you see that the entire circle is being deleted, make sure that your lines actually join the circle. So there we go. And now if we go ahead and trim this off, perfect. Now we have a basic outline of our rear wing. Now we need to convert this 2D sketch into a 3D model. Go ahead and click on Finish Sketch. Rotate your model around. And what you will see is that the sketch actually lies outside of the main body. We need to make sure that the sketch extends both inwards and outwards. So click on the sketch and click on the Extrude tool. Now within the Extrude tool, we're going to make use of the direction setting and change that to two-sided. Once you change it to two-sided, Fusion 360 will enable two arrows or handlers, as we call them, to control both sides of your sketch. Use this handle to pull in your sketch into the body, and make sure that your operation is always set to join. Remember, we can only add material to the car template and not take away anything from it. Now, while pushing in the wing into the body, make sure that it does not protrude into the cartridge cavity. So let's make sure it's just behind and is joining the body. Perfect. Now from this point on, we need to measure how far can our wing come out of the main body. So let's head back to the rules and regulations. And if you scroll up, we have our rear wing span segments, which are measured from the body till its outer edge. And that minimum segment size is 20 mm. Let's go ahead into the design and pull this out to 20 mm. So type in 20 and hit enter. There we go. We have created our rear wing on one side of the car. And as with the other features of the car, we need to make sure that our car looks identical and symmetrical. So let's go ahead and create the rear wing on the other side. But instead of going through the hard work of creating the sketch and measuring the tools all over again, let's just mirror our wing to the other side. To do that, head to Create and select the Mirror tool. What this will allow you to do is create an exact copy of a feature from one side of the car to the other side of the car. Now, select the type as Features if it's not already selected. Select your object as the rear wing that you have just created. And when you select the mirror plane, the platform will activate the origin automatically. If you don't see the origin, go ahead and click the Show Hide button on the origin option on the top left. Now, I'm just going to zoom in a little bit over here to make sure I select the middle plane. And once I do that, and if I zoom out, the platform will create a preview of what my mirrored rear wing looks like. And I think I'm happy with that. So go ahead and click OK. And there you have it. The rear wing is now mirrored on both sides of the car and is identical to the one that we just made. Make sure to save your file so that you don't lose any progress.